Thank you so much for joining us today on the Benefit Buffet, where we offer education and services about government benefits that pay for the high cost of care one bite at a time. My name is Jill Pulliam, and I am the owner of Benefit Results and the power behind Betty, the benefit eligibility triage and education line. We are so pleased today to have with us Troy Studeny from Immanuel Campus of Care to talk to us today about the different levels of care that exist in Arizona communities to help people understand what services they can get if they start needing care. You know, the Benefit Buffet was really put together to help families understand the way government benefits can help you pay for care. And all of us at Benefit Results and Betty know that families sometimes just need that little bit of guidance, little bit of support, and that's why the Betty line exists. It's a free call center that allows families to call in and ask questions that they may have, maybe about something that they hear on the Benefit Buffet today, or maybe they're struggling with finding a property to help them move their mom into so that she can be safer. The Betty line wants to offer a place where you can go to ask those questions. We hope you'll give us a call of the Betty line at 855-477-9896, or you can always go on to askforbetty.com. That's ask, the number 4, BETE.com. So today in the buffet, I want to welcome Troy. Thank you so much for joining us today, Troy. So glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Very happy to be here.
So, Troy, tell us a little bit about Immanuel Campus of Care, where you're located, and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, okay, great. Immanuel Campus of Care, it's a fantastic community in the West Valley, located in Peoria, Arizona. We are what's known as a CCRC, a continuum of care. So we have many different levels of care on our campus, which makes it great for people that come in maybe at the independent living level of care, where they can come in, be in our independent living, still be provided with some services and some things that make life just a little bit easier day in and day out. And the best part of it is when those services and that care and the structure that's needed maybe extends beyond just a visitor coming by to help you out, clean the apartment, do those types of things. That's when we look at our next levels of care, like our assisted living and our memory care.
So the buffet today, we really want to focus on just that. Most people, if they've never been in this world, right? They've never had an elderly parent that needed care. They really don't know the questions to ask, or when does mom should they move to an independent living? So maybe what we could do to start is can you give just a general understanding of the different levels of care that Immanuel Campus of Care offers?
Absolutely. And we start there with our independent living. We've got a large 140 apartment complex, and we're able to offer affordable housing to so many people there. Mm-hmm. And that's our goal, is affordable housing while still getting provided same great care.
Wow.
Because that is a struggle that a lot of people find themselves in, is I do need certain levels of care, but how am I going to be able to afford those?
You have people that come to you and say, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to afford this kind of care, and they're surprised when they come to your property?
They're very surprised, and they ask that, but that's one of our missions. That's one of our goals, is to serve those who are underserved, find the people in that gray area out there that need that care but can't find a place to afford it. We want to provide all that and have the options, and that's what we do at Immanuel. We have our independent living, and that's where you can get some extra help, so a caregiver to come out, things like that, to assist you with some of the things that just make life a little bit more difficult. And when you're looking at a loved one or a senior family member that you are looking, are they in the right place? Do they need another level of care? Is when you start to look. Assisted living is where someone needs a little bit more structure and may just need some assistance 24 hours a day, not just a couple hours a day or a couple days a week. And when that starts to happen, you start to look at the safety things. But when they move to assisted living, that's when they get that 24-hour care. Medication services, maybe getting assistance with bathing, making sure that there's cues and reminders just to get up, get moving throughout the day. You know, we find that people in independent living, when you're alone, sometimes it's tough to get motivated and get up in the morning. And that kind of helps, it starts to slow you down as a person and slow you down and thriving each day. Where in assisted living, we may have some staff members to stop by, make sure you're getting up, you're getting dressed.
Isolation is a pretty horrible thing for a senior, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And we find, where families can't be there every day. As people grow and as people start to progress through the end-of-life process. And that's where we're there to assist. If you're in independent living, you don't have to leave Immanuel to go to an assisted living. You're able to transition to that community on the same campus. We assist with that and try to make it as easy as possible for not only the resident, but the family themselves. It's not an easy transition to start moving through levels of care through our assisted living and then eventually maybe needing long-term care in our skilled nursing facility, which we have right on the same campus.
In our next segment, I'm excited about one of the next segments because you're going to talk some very specific stories about how you guys help people move through these transition levels of care.
Yes.
But as you're explaining these levels of care, one of the things that comes to my mind is a lot of people equate nursing home care to sort of, a dark, ugly place where you don't want to go. Tell us a little bit about your skilled nursing facility and the kind of services that you provide there.
Yeah, in our skilled nursing facility with our long-term care, we have great units there. They're open, they're free, you're able to come and go as you please, you're able to leave the facility. It's not that you're locked down and bogged down. And the same thing with our assisted living. At Immanuel, we actually specialize, which most places don't, where you go to an assisted living, you're walking down hallways, door after door after door. Well, we actually have individual apartments. So when we bring family members in, or this is a new transition into assisted living, it feels like everything's being stripped from them. Their independence, decision-making, and those are some of the things we hold on to the very most at the end when physical things get taken, like our house, or we start.
What about your pet?
We allow pets, and
that's
of
so
course
neat.
We do.
That's such an important part of transitioning out of your home, isn't it? If you have to also leave your pet behind.
Right, and that's a part of your family. Yeah. So we have a dog park on campus that they're able to use in each community. Independent living has their own, assisted living has their own, and because they're part of the family. Absolutely. So when we look at that and we look at assisted living, those individual apartments, they make you feel they're in their own home. They can come and go. They can lock their front door, and when they leave, they can have it locked when they're in there to feel that security and comfort while not giving away all of their property and their residence. They have that apartment and it's theirs. They can decorate it the way they want and
that's nice.
Really
so
have that independence.
When would it be appropriate for someone to have to leave the assisted living to go to the nursing center?
Well, and about that, it really becomes, safety. Can we provide the care that you truly need? And is there the staffing and the team able to do that? Sometimes, you get to a point where you need 2 or 3 people to help you get up and assist you with getting changed, or, needing multiple different, bathing times because you've got to get in there more often because you can't get to the restroom. You can't do these things. It's about looking at the safety of your skin, the safety of can you transfer on your own? And that's when you start to see, okay, maybe long-term care is a little bit more of a better fit for me.
Do you ever see someone that comes into the skilled nursing facility first and then goes to is able to get better and stronger and move into the assisted living?
Yes, and actually it can go both ways. We have people in our assisted living that we find we really just need to get a little bit stronger. We came in with a certain amount of strength, maybe got a little bit comfortable. People are helping us out a little bit more than we're used to. So then we have to look, okay, maybe we get some therapy involved. Let's start working on our physical strength. Let's start working on occupational therapy about doing things for ourselves and around. And let's get stronger so we can be safe. Then we can come back to the assisted living. Now, there's times that we can bring that type of therapy and things in-house where you don't have to leave. But it also is sometimes necessary where maybe you have a trip out to the hospital, something like that, and you've got to go to our skilled nursing facility and long-term care unit. They work to get you stronger, safer, so that way you can get back home, because our goal is to always get back home.
As I'm hearing you talk, I can imagine a family who is listening to you today who maybe is caring for their parent in their own home, and they're tired, they're frazzled, they are thinking, I don't know how much longer I can juggle my children and my parent and my job and all of those things. Are they able to get a hold of someone at Immanuel to ask about these levels of care and what may be appropriate?
Absolutely. We actually encourage it. And first off, I commend all the people at home that are trying to take care of their loved ones and be there for them. It is not an easy job. There's a reason why I have so many staff members. It doesn't just take one person. It takes many people to make sure that every loved one has what they need.
So they might not know which level of care is appropriate, but that's what you could help them understand.
Please reach out to our admissions department. Give us a call at our main number. They will certainly answer any questions and then determine, okay, maybe we're looking at assisted living, or you have an idea that mom's got to go into the skilled nursing, into this nursing home setting, and we do an assessment and say, well, no, we actually think we can take care of them over in the assisted living.
Right.
Lowest level of care is always our goal. for as long as possible.
How do they get a hold of you?
Give us a call at 623-977-8373. Once again, you can be prompted to go to the admissions department, or you can ask for our admissions director, Travis Johnson. He will make sure to get you with the right people and answer all your questions.
That's so great, Troy. I've worked in the Arizona healthcare community for, over 30 years, and Immanuel has been such a staple of our community. The environment is unique. I have to say, the different levels of care you have are very different than a lot of other settings. I love that in the assisted living, it does feel more like an apartment.
Yes.
It's your spot. There's a door to a courtyard. You can go out. You feel like you can you can be as, have your space, but also feel like you're part of that community. Yes. I know that community is a real important part of what you guys do over there.
I think the social aspect of living is one of the most important. We can't find ourselves. Now, we may have some that would prefer to be by themselves a little bit more often, and that's great. But we still encourage to be part of a community, be part of the residents, come to different resident council meetings, be part of that and have a voice, because we certainly will listen to you. And that's where I just feel we make such an impact. And like you said, we may have unique levels of care, but the impact we make is a great one, in fact, that we find so many people that never thought they had an option, but they do. They can come here, they can live, have a great place to be while maintaining as much independence as possible.
Well, one of the pieces I'm sure about is that families are worried about the cost of what this is going to be. And we are going to talk about that in upcoming segments about your levels of care, the cost, and also how do government benefits then help pay for these levels of care. And that's why this is such an appropriate topic, I think, for a benefit buffet.
I couldn't agree more.
So my name is Jill Pulliam. I'm the owner of Benefit Results, and we have Troy Studeny here, who is the Assisted and Independent Living Director at Immanuel. We're so thrilled to be able to collaborate together. Benefit Results and Immanuel have a really neat relationship where we are able to help their clients, the Immanuel clients, figure out these different benefits to pay for care. What a great partnership.
It really is.
Very good. So as we're thinking about our next segment, we're hoping the folks who are listening are going to stay on board with us to listen to some case studies about how levels of care and how if you're in the right place, impacts your quality of life, because that's really what we're all about, is making sure that these seniors are given the care that they need and the support they need.
Definitely.
You bet.
Yes.
You bet. I want to remind everybody that you can always call the Betty line. It's Benefit Eligibility Triage and Education at 855-477-9896. My name again is Jill Pulliam, the host of Benefit Buffet. Looking forward to having you stay on board with us. Welcome back to the Benefit Buffet, where we have education and talk about the different government benefits that assist with the cost of care, one bite at a time. My name is Jill Pulliam, and I am the owner of Benefit Results, and I am so pleased on our show today that we have Troy Studeny with Immanuel Campus of Care. He's the Assisted and Independent Living Director over there, and what we've been talking about are the levels of care that are available to someone if they're starting to need more hands-on care and maybe aren't able to stay at home anymore. In our last segment, we talked about independent living, assisted living, and nursing home care, and how those levels of care can assist somebody and why someone would be in those areas. So, Troy, thank you again for being here with us today. Why don't you start by telling us again a little bit about Immanuel and what makes you guys so unique?
Absolutely. Glad I'm here. And just a reminder for anybody listening in, if you have any questions as you listen to us and taking your notes, please feel free to give us a call at 623-977-8373, and we will absolutely be there to answer any questions or answer any concerns you might have about a loved one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I'm going to tag on to that just a little bit. Immanuel and Benefit Results also work very closely to be able to offer this information and support. If anyone has questions about anything we talk about today, but also maybe specific government benefit questions like, am I eligible for Medicaid? What happens if I get a renewal letter and I don't know what to do with it when I am on Medicaid? We do have a wonderful free service that's available to all Arizonians to be able to call and ask questions. It's called Betty. It's a kind of a silly name. It conjures up the idea of a lady behind the desk, or sweet lady that you want to call. Just call Betty. The website that you can go to is askforbetty.com. That's ask, the number 4, BETE.com, or you can call us at 855-477-9896. When you call, what you'll get is a live person that cares, that's compassionate, that can listen to your personal situation and answer your questions based on your situation, not some, computer listing that comes up. So we sure hope you give Betty a call also, as well as Immanuel Campus of Care. So, Troy, let's use this segment to maybe paint a picture of what type of person would need the levels of care that you offer at Immanuel.
Absolutely. And I think as we look, and I've said this in our previous segment, and I always focus on safety. There's things that we can do in life that you can make adjustments, but safety is one that you just cannot compromise on. And so when you're looking at a loved one and are they in the right place? Do they need more care? That's when I start to look what's the level of safety that a resident needs, and that the structure that's needed for them to thrive. Mm-hmm. Thriving is our most important thing, and making sure that the right level of care gives them the most opportunity to thrive every single day. Mm-hmm. So that's what we look at, and we've had many different lives that we've impacted over the years, and some great stories on who we've brought in, how we've been able to make that impact, not only for the resident, but even for loved ones. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you about
I was going to say, I bet your mind is just like swirling with all the different people that you've interacted with and the lives you've had. But maybe come up with a story that people can identify with.
Yeah, and I think you're right. There's so many stories that do pop up. In the last 7 to 8 years that I've been at Immanuel, that's one of the things that always keeps me coming back is the impact we make. And, one that I always think about is a resident that we now have and was taken to the hospital. Family was really struggling with the daily care at home. Had a little bit of dementia, and that's really where families start to struggle, is when dementia and things like that, Alzheimer's can kick in because of the confusion, the daily confusion. But this resident was at the hospital. The family simply could not take care of the resident anymore and was unable to bring the resident home. And life's all about partnerships, and Immanuel has great partnerships, one with you, and of course with all of our case managers that we work with. And we got a call that we had a resident out there that needed a home.
Kind of an SOS.
That's exactly right. That we have nowhere to go. We need something, and can you make something happen fast? And that's one of the beauties about Immanuel is we're always ready to help somebody. So we got a call within a few hours. We were able to get an apartment ready, even assist with getting some of it furnished, so that way that resident could come straight to us. Family didn't have to try and move everything all at once. We were able to get that person into a safe environment first. And so we got that apartment ready. We were able to admit that resident. We brought her in. And one of the best parts is she sat there and she says, so I get to just come outside whenever I want to? Aww. And I said, yes, this is your apartment. This is your new home. We're part of your family now. And anything you need, you can let us know. But you get to come right out here into a safe courtyard. You can go outside whenever you'd like to, get some fresh air, go see your neighbors, whatever, attend an activity, as we always encourage. And we were able to get that person same day. And those are the type of impacts we make on getting residents into that safe environment, and then really starting to learn about residents in an instant like that, where we can make life a little bit better each day at a time, find out their likes, their dislikes, things that they like to do each day to keep them busy so we don't get bored. Staying active and staying social are two of our biggest things.
I'm thinking about your website, ImmanuelCares.com, and it makes me smile because it really does explain you and the community that you have. The idea that at a moment's notice your team rallied to be able to find a place for this individual who would otherwise had been stuck at the hospital and had a lot of challenges to be able to admit somewhere, that you were able to rally the troops, like you said, to be able to find a place. There are a lot of wonderful communities out in Arizona. There are a lot of wonderful places, but I really believe what sets you guys apart is the heart part. So your Immanuel Cares is the great way to illustrate that, I think, and your website says that all.
Yeah, serving those who are underserved, and like I said, finding that population. There's a lot of people that may have the funds, the finances to pick any community that they want to go to, and I think that's fantastic that people have that option. But then there's that area in this demographic of people that we want to help, where they just feel that there aren't a lot of options out there. And that's where our partnership with you has come in so big, where we have found resources that we may not have known about or been able to offer, and now we can with our partnership with you. Because a lot of people are sitting there going, I have no options, when really they just need some professionals to get into involved, ask some questions, and find those resources.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. I was thinking about a woman that we got invited to come to her apartment in the independent living in Immanuel. She was a widowed spouse of a veteran. She really needed to go to assisted living, but she didn't have enough income to be able to go to assisted living. And so we were able to talk with her, understand that her background and everything she had. Lo and behold, she was truly eligible for these VA funds. We were able to apply, get her approved, get her on the VA program. She was able to move. And what was so cool about you guys is you moved her before she even got the benefit because it's what she needed. Yep. She was able to get the services that she needed. She got settled, and then she was able to get this wonderful pension to be able to supplement her income to pay for care privately. That was fabulous.
And I think that's something that we'll talk more in detail on, is how our partnership is such a strength where we don't have to halt somebody's care in order to get them into a safe place. We know that we have the resources to work with you to make sure that we'll get everything taken care of while they don't have to halt care or halt safety.
You know, one of the things you said that is so significant that I hope that the listeners are getting from us, it's this collaborative effort. It really takes more than just one person to help with when you're transitioning to levels of care like this. Having a team together, having supportive people that are looking out medically, looking out financially, looking out socially, all of that is so very important. And that's really how collaboration in the senior industry or the just industry, healthcare in general, really needs to operate.
I agree. Partnerships and communication can go a long way because there are so many angles to so many different questions in regards to resources and insurance and those types of things.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to continue this conversation at our next segment where we continue to digest all these government benefits one bite at a time. My name is Jill Pulliam, and I'm with Troy Studeny from Immanuel. Stay on board with us. Thank you for joining us again with the Benefit Buffet, where we talk about government benefits and how they assist with the high cost of care, one bite at a time. My name is Jill Pulliam, and I'm your host of the Benefit Buffet, and I have here with me Troy Studeny from Immanuel Campus of Care. We are so thrilled that you're joining us. We are having a conversation today about levels of care and what's available for families who are thinking about maybe their mom or their dad or their spouse is starting to need more care than really what they can care for at home. Immanuel is a fabulous campus that offers these different levels of care. Troy, we were talking about independent living, assisted living, and skilled care. I think probably families, one of the first things they think is, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to be able to afford this level of care. Can you talk about what it costs at Immanuel?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that at Immanuel we strive for two different things. One, from a private pay standpoint, that's always intimidating because there are communities across the valley that you can find anywhere from $3,000 all the way up to $10,000 a month. And that's an intimidating number. We try to keep our private pay rates as low as possible while still being able to come back and update the community, keep making it great, and adding new things. But, we average rate in our assisted living right around that $3,000 mark, which is actually very, very competitive to other communities.
Very much so.
And that's our goal. And same with our independent living. We have some of the most affordable independent living housing, I believe, in Arizona, where we're right around that $960 mark to about $1,200, whether you're in a one-bedroom, two-bedroom apartment. And that includes utilities. It includes cable. That includes your water. And that's our goal, is to try and keep that as low as possible while still maintaining this community and making it great. Now, when you're looking at private pay, there's still many, many people that cannot afford those rates.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest fears as to why I believe families, loved ones, maybe hold on a little bit longer than they need to because of that fear of that cost. And that's when we start to talk about our partnership and utilizing Arizona long-term care insurance.
We did do a buffet a couple weeks ago about the Arizona long-term care system and that it's Arizona's safety net to help people who need long-term care services. You do have to be at risk of nursing home placement and you have to meet income and asset requirements. But what's so neat is if someone were to come to Immanuel and say, gosh, we want to move here, but I don't think we can afford it. This is where the collaboration that we have between Benefit Results and Immanuel comes in. you are able to send those folks to Benefit Results, and we can talk them through these benefit options.
Exactly. And it's one of the best stepping stones we have now is our partnership with you, because there's so many communities you will go to and say, we may not be able to afford, and you're simply turned away at the door. It's a financial problem. You won't be able to afford us. You're going to have to look for somewhere else. Well, for us, we have you guys, and we're able to start that process, get you introduced, and they can start answering questions so they can find out. While we may not be able to financially make it and the needs are there from a medical standpoint, well, they have a good chance of getting onto that Arizona long-term care insurance. And when that happens, we're able to really bring someone in because they cover they cover your stay.
They do.
They do.
So it's interesting if someone were to move into, let's say, the assisted living at Immanuel, and they qualified for the Arizona long-term care system, the individual would pay a portion of their income minus a little bit for personal needs and that sort of thing. Yep. And then the state of Arizona, this All-Tex program, pays the rest, right?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it is that while you may have an income currently and you can't afford what you need, well, they make up for that. You still get to have some personal funds, and I think that's one of the most important things is because people still want to buy the things that make them happy too. Yes. So they're not giving everything away just to have placement. They still get that, but they're able to come into an assisted living, and then, like you said, the government will step in and they will pay the rest of the remaining balance after taking that portion from you, and then they have that opportunity to be somewhere they wouldn't have had before.
And it might not be All-Tex either. If someone came in, like we were talking about in the earlier segment, it maybe is veteran benefits that they are eligible for. Maybe it's a combination of both. Maybe someone can move in and pay privately for a couple months because they have a little bit of savings, but then during that time have a plan in place to get them on the All-Tex program, whatever benefit.
And I'm so glad you said that because you're exactly right. Sometimes we only have a few months of funds, but that's when we can start really boots on the ground working on trying to find other resources that are available, like you said, from VA benefits, where that's actually helped a couple residents to stay private pay, where their income plus
exactly
that,
right.
They don't have to look at the long-term care insurance. I always go to the All-Tex because it's so prominent and it helps so many people. But you're right, there's just so many resources that people don't know about that you can help and assist find that it even surprises me sometimes. And I'm really glad to go back with the great news that we found, even more resources for somebody.
That's so neat. And I hope this segment, what we've been able to do is offer hope for families.
Absolutely.
That if they are looking at a situation where they're really not sure what to do, that there is benefits out there that they can look at and see if they're eligible for. But there's also help to find out about those benefits. Yes. We really encourage people to call the Betty line, the Benefit Eligibility Triage and Education line. That number is 855-477-9896. Remember, it's a free service and for all Arizonans to get these questions about benefits answered. Thanks for staying on board with us. We look forward to continuing our discussion with Troy from Immanuel, one bite at a time. You are joining us today on the Benefit Buffet, where we talk about government benefits and how they assist with the high cost of care, one bite at a time. My name is Jill Pulliam, and I am the owner of Benefit Results and the power behind Betty, the Benefit Eligibility Triage and Education call center, basically, that is a free service to all Arizonans to be able to get these questions answered about these benefits. If you have a chance or you are needing questions answered, especially after listening to the buffet today, and you are wanting to have clarification on anything we've said, please don't hesitate to ask for Betty at 855-477-9896, or you can find us online at askforbetty.com. That website has the ability to do a chat feature with the coaches, which is also really nice if you are wanting to talk to someone via the computer instead of picking up a phone call. But when you do reach Betty, it is a live person that's able to speak with you about your personal situation and ask those kind of sensitive questions that maybe you're worried about asking someone else. We're so thrilled to be able to offer this service to you. The other thing that Benefit Results is really thrilled about is our relationship with Immanuel Campus of Care. They have been our oldest collaborator. They've been on board with us for a really significant amount of time because they do stand up to their name, Immanuel Cares. What they also, not only do they take great care of their residents, they also care about this idea of how to help people figure out how to pay for the care that is available, that they do need. Troy Studeny is here today from Immanuel, and he is the director of the Assisted Living and Independent Living. Troy, thank you again for being here today.
It's my pleasure.
So what we have been talking about during our last few segments is the different levels of care that Immanuel offers, skilled nursing, assisted living, independent, what that means, because I do imagine there are people who are listening who have a family member that they're thinking may need assisted or may need a skilled care, but they're not really sure. How about we talk in this segment a little bit about the services available in each of the different areas and how Immanuel, what a typical client or resident looks like in each of those areas.
Sure. And when we start with an independent living, and I talk about independent living, that's a lot like being in your own home, of course. And that's where the Altex services, they can reach you there and they can assist you in your own home. And as we look at our retirement community, our independent living, that's exactly what it is. This is a 55 and up community. It's a retirement community. We have amenities such as a pool, a dog park, a smoking patio, places for many paths to walk, but a lot of outdoor areas for people to enjoy.
So like an apartment setting? Like they have their own apartment, their own a kitchenette?
That's exactly right. They have their own apartment. It comes with their own kitchen, an oven, microwave, those things, come with it. And they have their own home. It's their own private residence, and we treat it that way.
Do they get meals too? Because food's an important part of retirement living.
Part for everybody. And certainly we have a bistro. It's called the Gardens Bistro that is open to not only just the independent living, but to any of our residents or staff on campus. It's a beautiful thing to have for staff to have, for residents to access for 3 meals a day. And that's one of the things that we love providing is great food, great service to even not just our assisted living or our long-term care, but to include our retirement community and really let them have that access where they don't have to leave our campus.
Yeah, that's nice.
To be able to go out and have a good dinner.
I think a lot of times when seniors go into some sort of like independent living, food is such a social part of it. So it's not only good food, but it's also now not eating alone.
Absolutely. And that's a social event. And we look at that as an activity. Getting out of your apartment and going down and sitting with your friends and talking when what could be a 30-minute meal in your apartment turns into an hour and a half with your friends.
Exactly.
And that's so encouraging to see. And we encourage it across the board in our assisted living. And as we look at our assisted living, it's that next level where I say that you just need a little bit more support, a little bit more structure, and you might need something in the middle of the night. And that's okay because we have that 24 hours of care.
Is there like a call bell, or how do they get the help that they need?
And that's really where you start to see an independent living. You see a lot of loved ones use what's known as a call pendant. That is, I think the term a lot of the times is life alert, to call out if they're in assistance. Well, in assisted living, they have that. They have a call button that goes straight to our staff. If they need something, if they need assistance with something, going to the restroom, anything like that, our team's able to respond within just a few minutes and give them that assistance.
Do you have folks with dementia in that level of care?
We do in assisted living, and dementia. To have dementia does not mean you just have to be into a locked unit. You can have forms of dementia and still be in our traditional assisted living.
I like that.
As that progresses and as that time goes, it's all about safety. As I've said in the past segments, is if we feel that you're not safe, that's when we go to that next level as our memory care. We're going to keep a little bit, better eyes, better staffing ratios, just to keep everyone as safe as possible. But we have that unit. It's a 21-bed memory care unit, and it has its own dining room, its own activity room, and they're able to enjoy and do all the things that any of our other residents are able to do.
Is that considered assisted or skilled?
It's still in our assisted living.
It is. That's wonderful.
A lot of people think you get to that and it's that skilled nursing home type feel. No, we're able to do that in assisted living and take care of them and make sure, once again, their independence, they're still in their own apartment. There's never a time that they're in with a roommate, unless it's requested, like a couple or something, of course. Right. But we want them to have that independence as long as possible, dementia or not. They still know that that's their apartment. They know how to get back to there, and we like that part about it.
No, that's great. That's great. When would be a time that a person would need the additional care of the skilled nursing facility? When would that be unsafe, like you said, in the assisted living and have to move to the skilled?
And I think an easy way to look at that is when care becomes a bit out of the scope of service for caregivers and med techs that you find in a traditional assisted living. We do have a nurse, my director of nursing, but she can't be there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But when you go to that skilled nursing, you have that LPN. on every shift, 24 hours a day. You have the CNAs that are able to do a little bit more, use some of the things like Hoyer lifts, Sarah lifts, things like that you can't have in assisted living.
So maybe someone who needs a 2-person transfer, 3-person transfer, what have you, or they can't walk at all. They can't be ambulatory or weight bearing at all.
That's exactly right. And once you find it to that point, it's just we're unable to have you thrive because we don't have the personnel, the services, the equipment to do it in assisted living. But that's the beauty of having our skilled nursing facility right next door. You, once again, don't have to leave Immanuel to find the care that you need.
You know, that's a great point, Troy. And I just want to reiterate about the campus concept is that if someone were to come into the skilled nursing facility, oftentimes that happens from a hospital. Let's say you've had some crisis, you've broken a hip or something like that, and now you have to leave the hospital and go into your skilled nursing facility for rehab. Medicare usually covers a portion of that.
Yes.
But what people miss often, and we did do a buffet about this a while ago, but when Medicare stops paying, gosh, that's scary because the costs can be pretty exorbitant. What we have been able to do together, partnership-wise, is that Benefit Results has been able to speak with those families and say, okay, your Medicare is ending. Don't panic. It's okay. There are options available to you, and there are things that we can do to help, you know, that transition from when Medicare is going to end onto whether you're paying privately or whether it's now time to work towards a Medicaid program like Altex, that we're able to support that process. But what I love about the community is that maybe that person doesn't need the skilled center anymore. They can go from the skilled center into the assisted living where it is a more cost-effective situation for them. Maybe it might be smart again to remind folks about the general costs for these types of settings, but also I want to remind folks that if you are unable to afford this care privately, that there are answers and there are benefits available to help support you cover this so that you can be able to stay in this wonderful environment. Yeah,
you're exactly right. And usually admissions, they do happen that way. They come from the hospital straight into that skilled nursing facility or that long-term care unit for therapies, things like that. And the beauty of our partnership is that transition or knowing that we may have to go to assisted living, it starts right when they admit into the skilled nursing facility. It doesn't come at the end when we're at discharge and then you find out that, oh my gosh, I've got an assisted living. How am I going to pay for this? How are we going to get? That's what they need. We start right away. And we can start finding what are the resources out there? What are we going to need? Where do we think this will end up? Is it assisted living? Will you stay in long-term care? We get to start that transition right at admission, and I think that's fantastic.
I do too. I do too. Families are, my experience is when we get calls from families, there's so many misconceptions. Their neighbor told them something, their friend or their whatever, and they're getting bad information to make fear prompt the next decision.
Yes.
So what would you say to a family member who's listening, who in their heart knows that maybe it's time for mom and dad to move to a facility? What can you reassure them about how Immanuel and your compassion and the support that you can offer them to, I don't want to say relieve some guilt, because that's a part of it. You know, you feel like you should take care of your parent or your whomever it is, but you also know that maybe that's not the safest to keep them at home.
Yeah, and those are some of the toughest decisions we have with family members because guilt plays a huge part in it. But when you know in your heart that it's the right thing for a loved one, it's a lot like being a parent. You know, it's sometimes that we may not tell our kids what they want to hear, but we tell them what they need to hear for the betterment of them. And when you're trying to keep someone safe and you're trying to make sure they're in the right spot, that's what I try and tell the family is what we want to do is take the weight off the resident and you as the family member. We know it's been tough. So we want to be able to answer questions while also say, we've got a great partnership. We've got these things that can make this easier for you. But you owe it to yourself and to your loved one to ask those questions. You may hear about a bad restaurant, but you still might try it. It's the same thing. People are going to have different experiences in life. And if all we do is focus on the negative ones, you may never find anything new or something great that's out there. And so I encourage anybody that's looking into it, ask the questions, go into some places, see what's out there, and see what we can provide you. Because when you come into Immanuel, we look at it as a family. Those residents are I'm part of their family. I'm there for them, and I always will be. And I believe that that's how our staff look at it. that we're there to support those residents.
So could someone come to Immanuel and just tour and see how it looks and maybe see an apartment, see what the assisted living looks like?
We encourage it. We'll have you come in and we'll treat you to a lunch if you want to see how it goes, how it feels, what's the dining room feel like. I mean, that's all part of it. You can walk in and you can see something, but you got to experience some of it too. See the activities that are going on. Like I said, join us for a lunch. That's great. We encourage you to do so because then you might say, this is actually really nice. It's not quite what I heard or quite what someone heard and told me. I always think experiencing things for yourself and making your own decisions based off that is very important.
Oh, absolutely. And I've said oftentimes to families, you might not need it today, but it's sure a good idea to know what facility you would choose or where you would go when that time comes. So even if it's not time today, but you have an elderly parent or a brother or sister that you know is going to need care, and you live in the West Valley, even if you don't live in the West Valley, but this is where Immanuel is. It's in Peoria, right? Mm-hmm. So you going and seeing it and getting a peace of mind of knowing when that time comes, you don't have to be touring 15 other buildings. You know that this is where you want to go is pretty important.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely. Being proactive rather than reactive is key. And also it's nice to have some people that you've already met. You've asked some questions to. You got a little comfortability with the team. It makes just the process that much easier. It's never just an easy process to put someone from their home into a care-like setting. It's just a difficult decision to make for so many different reasons. We want to make it as easy as possible for people to do so.
Do you ever do respite care, the care that's like giving a caregiver a break for a week?
Absolutely. Our family, yeah. When they're there being a caregiver, taking care of someone, we look at that. We can bring you in. We do have a minimum length of stay, and we can always discuss that, but we have many families that they need to go do something or go on a trip or something where they're not able to make sure that they're safe. Well, come on in. We'll get an apartment ready. We'll have it ready to go, and we'll take care of them for a week, 2 weeks, to make sure that you can go out and do those things while knowing that your family member is taken care of.
What a
safe.
Great way to try it.
Yes.
Right? What a great way to get a sense of what it's like to be. Maybe the mom or dad wouldn't want to leave.
Right. And sometimes that happens. They get comfortable. They make friends. It's a little bit better than just sitting at home with, family. Not to say anything against the family, but having friends and being social, like I said, I think it's one of the most important aspects of our lives every day.
Troy, I'm so glad that you've joined us today on the Benefit Buffet. Understanding these levels of care and the knowing that there are options, right, of what it looks like and what's there is so important to give people a sense of hope, a sense of peace, knowing that there are answers, and also knowing that there are benefits that will assist with this cost of care so that you can be reassured that this can be an option and not be fearful of this high cost of care.
And that's why I appreciate our partnership so much. I really think that you have provided so many resources and options for people that felt they had none.
Gosh, Troy, thank you so much for being here, and thank you to Immanuel Campus of Care for being a sponsor of our Benefit Buffet.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you, for joining us today. We hope that we've given you some nuggets that you can chew on to make you feel better about these very complicated government benefits that pay for care. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Benefit Buffet.